Good morning all. We come to Numbers chapters 9 to 11 of our daily Genesis to Revelations study. I shall start at Numbers chapters 9 verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at its appointed season. And verse 5, And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at the evening in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that Yahweh commanded Moses. So did the children of Israel. And they were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, and they could not keep the Passover on that day. Verse 9, And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto Yahweh. The 14th day of the second month at evening they shall keep it, and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. But the man that is clean, and is not in a journey, and forbeareth to keep the Passover, even the same soul shall be cut off from among his people, because he brought not the offering of Yahweh in his appointed season. That man shall bear his sin. And if a stranger shall sojourn among you, and will keep the Passover unto Yahweh, according to the ordinance of the Passover, and according to the manner thereof, so shall he do. You shall have one ordinance, both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land. And on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle. So my few comments on these few verses. In the first month of the setting up of the tabernacle, God speaks to Israel. You see that in Exodus chapters 40 verse 17, Numbers 1 verse 1, and Numbers 9 verse 1, and lastly 10 verse 11. The keeping of the Passover and bringing the offering to God at the right appointed time is important enough for God not to excuse anyone, Hebrew, stranger, temporarily unclean, or on a journey. In fact, he says the person who does not keep will be cut off in their sin. So what does this tell you about how God feels about the keeping of his Passover, which he did say would be a memorial forever? Is he likely to change that, even for the stranger or the Gentile today? If you still think he changed, what scripture or of his are you going to use to say he changed it? If he did not, and you are not keeping it, is it not sin according to him? We have seen sinners, the unholy, cannot come near him. Okay, chapter 10. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly, and for the journeying of the camps. And when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 9. And if you go to war in your land against the enemy that presseth you, then you shall blow an alarm with the trumpets, and you shall be remembered before Yahweh your God, and you shall be saved from your enemies. Verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, that's the day of atonement, and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow with the trumpet over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you a memorial before your God. I am Yahweh your God. So the blowing of the trumpet was for announcing the feast days of Leviticus 23 and the beginning of months, which is not according to the world's calendar, January, February, March, but it goes by the new moon as set by the sun and the moon in Genesis chapters 1:14. The moon has a generally 30-day cycle, and every 30 days, when you have the new moon, that's when God's new month starts. You can see 1 Chronicles chapters 23 verse 31, Ezra chapters 3 verse 5. And when Israel departed from its sincerity and treated it as a mere ritual, God condemned their ways. That is Isaiah chapters 1:13 to 14. Okay, continuing from verse 32, Numbers 10:32. And it shall be, if thou go with us, yea, it shall be that what goodness the Yahweh shall do unto us, the same shall be done unto thee. This is Moses' father-in-law. Moses asking him to go with them, and he said no, basically. Verse 35. And it came to pass, when the ark set forward, that Moses said, Rise up, Yahweh, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee. And when it rested, he said, Return, O Yahweh, unto the many thousands of Israel. So we see the congregation was made up of a mixture of nationalities. God said and gave them his laws for all of them, the congregation, to follow. Similar to what Moses said to Hobab, if we today go with that congregation, obeying the laws God gave them, we too get the goodness God does and promises to them. This congregation is referred to in Acts chapter 7:38. Last chapter, Numbers chapters 11 verse 1. And when the people complained, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of Yahweh burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses. When Moses prayed unto Yahweh, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of Yahweh burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again, and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? Now the words translated as mixed multitude in this verse is different from the Hebrew word for the mixed multitude of Exodus chapters 12:38 that came out of Egypt. There it referred to the composition of the people who left Egypt. Here it refers to a promiscuous-minded people, and is the only time the word is used. Now I can imagine God fuming with anger, causing his fire to burn more than usual, and burning those at the rear of the march. Verse 11, Numbers 11:11. And Moses said unto Yahweh, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant, and wherefore have I not found favour in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, Carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the suckling child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? From where should I have flesh to give unto all this people? For they weep unto me, saying, Give us flesh, that we may eat. I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand, if I have found favour in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. Now keep in mind the pressure under which Moses is under. He has the Spirit of God on him, we saw in verse 17, yet it does not count as an excuse when God keeps him out of the promised land, when later he gave Moses something to do, to get water for the people, and Moses didn't follow the instructions specifically. So continuing from verse 11:20. But even a whole month until it comes out of their nostrils, and it be loathsome unto you, because that you have despised Yahweh, which is among you, and have wept before him, saying, Why came we forth out of Egypt? So Moses telling the people that God will give them flesh to eat. He's going to give them so much flesh to eat it's going to come out of their nostrils. Okay, verse 21. And Moses said, the people among whom I am are 600,000 footmen, and thou hast said, I will give them flesh, that they may eat a whole month. And Yahweh came down in a cloud and spake unto him, and took of the spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that, when the spirit rested on them, they prophesied, and did not cease. Verse 29. And Moses said unto him, enviest thou for my sake? Would God that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that Yahweh would put his spirit upon them. If you read the whole chapter, you understand what that is. Someone came and said, told Moses that some of the people were prophesying, and Moses said, well, I wish everyone would. So the Spirit of God did not reside in them speaking in tongues, but prophecy. We would see this as a precedent of receiving the Holy Spirit, not tongues as is claimed today. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 22. Wherefore tongues are for a sign, not to them that believe, but to them that believe not. But prophesying serveth not for them that believe not, but for them that believe. 14:24. But if all prophecy, and there come in one that believeth not, or one unlearned, he is convinced of all, he is judged of all. 1 Corinthians 14:25. And thus are the secrets of his hearts made manifest, and so falling down on his face, he will worship God, and report that God is in you of a truth. So here we have in the wilderness, this congregation, they all knew of Yahweh, they're all believers. So they didn't need tongues. Yet tongues is used in churches today where they're supposed to be believers. Now the incident about the quail and the plagues falling, you read the whole chapter. I'm going to just read verses 11:31 to 34. And there went forth a wind from Yahweh, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp. And it was 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. And the people stood up far. And the people stood up all that day, and all that night, and all the next day, and they gathered the quails. He that gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them all abroad for themselves around about the camp. And while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of Yahweh was kindled against the people, and Yahweh smote the people with a very great plague. And he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people that lusted. So God in his wisdom gives us things we need and that are good for us. In that wisdom, he protects us from ourselves by keeping unhealthy things and ways of the world from us. We, in our greed, envy, etc., desire these things, and either moan or pray to God for them, or leave him and go and get them ourselves into the world, only to suffer, be choked by the effects of the world and these pollutions and ways of the world. So be careful what you wish for, as the saying goes. Proverbs chapter 30 verse 8. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. So let us not go lusting after things of the world. Shalom, until tomorrow, God willing.